morning, good afternoon, good evening. Uh, so in chapter 5, we're going to look at explaining learning. So there's three main behavioral theories: behavioral, cognitive, and sociocultural approach. So learning is something that a change in behavior or knowledge that occurs as a result of experience. So there's different theories on how to go about doing this. A social constructivist or sociocultural viewpoint comes from Vygotsky. So behavioral theory started really with Pavlov, his work with dogs. So if you ring a bell and feed the dogs, then after a period of conditioning, if you ring the bell, the dogs will salivate because their brains have been conditioned. They've learned to associate the bell with eating food, which is wonderful. I think that Vygotsky, with his concept of we learn in a social context, is very useful as a teacher. And personally, I really like the cognitive theory in teaching math. I see really good results with the constructivist approach to teaching middle school math. And I see really good results with that. So I'm a believer in that. So explaining learning, we have reinforcers, punishers, and feedback loops. So we mentioned Pavlov, reinforcement, positive and negative reinforcement. This just simply means rewarding students or punishing students. When they're talking about positive and negative reinforcement, I think they make it sound more grandiose than it really is. For example, a negative reinforcer is an event that, when removed, increases the frequency of a behavior. I mean, it sounds more complicated than it really is. So, as an example they give in the book, you might give a student the look in the classroom if they're not on task. And so that is a negative reinforcement because their behavior has gotten them a negative event. You're giving them the look, and it's not going to stop until they start doing what they're supposed to be doing. And a reward is something that we give. Why do I have to explain this? We all know what a reward is. A positive thing that you give to students for their positive behavior. So, so psychologically, they divide up this mix between positive reinforcers and negative reinforcers. But I think the big picture, I think, and what I've been told in other classes, education classes that I've taken, is that the thing you want to avoid is the punishment. That there are a lot of negatives that come along with, I mean, it's not as if we can have no punishment for bad behaviors in the classroom. There has to be, but that learning outcomes are much better the more we use positive relationships with the kids. So 4 side effects, 1, 2, 3, 4, of punishment. It suggests that by using punishment as a way of influencing students' behavior, it teaches aggression. It encourages, in some sense, the continuation of students continuing this behavior or some similar type of behavior, because this is what the teacher is modeling for them, the exact same sort of negativity. Punishment produces negative emotions, and this is really huge. My understanding of the ideal classroom, we want to have positive emotions in a space where the students feel safe and secure. Where people do not feel threatened. It's a much better learning environment. They will learn more. And so if we're constantly putting out negative emotions into the room, it tends to shut people down and they're not going to learn as much. So if we want to be about teaching or students learning something, we have to back off on the punishment. Number 3, punishment undermines the quality of the interpersonal relationship. So they're not going to like you if you're a punisher. And so it's going to be harder to have a good student-teacher relationship if you're Captain Cranky all the time. It doesn't really work. And punishment can make misbehavior worse. So there's lots of reasons to lighten up on the punishment and to accentuate the positive. Be sure to praise your students for good work more often than you criticize, so that there's a sense of positivity about their learning. I think that covers the punishment section of the our next slide is about diverse learners, special needs, and behavior analysis. I hope I'm not spinning the camera too rapidly. So for diverse learners, it's important to have clear expectations for behavior. To let students know that I'm here to help you. We're going to learn this. You're not going to get away with acting the wrong way in this classroom, and you're not going to get away with not doing the work, but I'm here for you. And to reinforce that concept for the diverse learners, sometimes, depending on how extreme the language needs are in your teaching environment, you may need to learn some of their language and culture and greet them in their language and learn more about where they're coming from linguistically, for them to feel that you're a part of their life and not something completely separate. And it's also important to show that culturally that you are not in any way biased towards one race or culture or sex, gender, in the classroom, but that you treat everyone equally, and so that there is not a sense of being excluded on any basis, hopefully. Which personally, in math, I would share with you. I've looked at research about how women and girls end up excluded out of math, partially based on the way in which it is taught, and calling on males and females. College professors, in this one research paper I looked at, called on men more frequently, gave them more time to answer. All of the students in the classroom knew this was going on. The professor had no idea they were doing it. So, culturally, socially, we are blind to our own biases. Even though we think we're trying to be fair to everyone, when we're oftentimes not even aware of it. So I'm very big on using the popsicle sticks sometimes for class discussion, because it takes the picking names of people and asking them to respond to the group discussion out of my hands completely randomizes it, and everyone is going to get called on. So I like the popsicle sticks for that. Anyway, that was an aside. Behavioral learning theory and special needs students, and managing behavior. So managing behavior is a huge part of certainly middle school. I can tell you that. So in terms of, like I mentioned earlier about avoiding punishment and the negative, what we want to do is increase desirable behaviors. So ways we do that are to use incentives, which can be as easy as smiling for the class, or being considering what sort of persona to project in the classroom. You could like try grinning a little bit and being positive. In itself is a more pleasant experience to sit in a room and have a teacher who's at least, seems to be happy or positive or enthused about the subject that they're teaching. Why do students misbehave? So being inattentive, lazy, uncooperative are undesirable behaviors. Yeah, that sounds like the teenagers in middle school to me. Not all of them, not every day, but you see this a lot. And so how do we get them to be more productive students? So it's not only a matter of classroom management, but also what kind of instruction that we give them. If they're tuning out and bored, we need to look at how we're teaching and what we're teaching and how we're teaching it, to try to make it more interesting to students who may learn in different ways. You remember to the basics, like include visual and verbal and etc., because different students will learn in different ways. What we hope to get students to is self-management. So ways to do this are to help students learn how to plan their own behavior and setting goals, and show them how to do self-instruction and to use positive self-talk to help them learn how to keep themselves on track. We can help teach students how to monitor their own behavior so they can see how good or how poorly they're behaving. We can teach them to evaluate how desirable their behavior is. So these are sort of metacognitive skills that some people just learn on their own, and some people really need to be taught how to do some of these things. So these are things that we can do as teachers, which will help our students for themselves as individuals, can help them next year in school, can help them the rest of their lives, and it helps the behavior in the classroom. It makes the classroom a better place. So those are a lot of benefits there. I mean, for me, the big takeaways is remember to accentuate the positive. We want to have more good job, great idea, or even okay, that's good thinking. That isn't the right answer, but it was great attempt at thinking about it. Or, you know, you've got to find a way to not, especially in math, not say you're wrong. Praise the student for trying. Okay, let's try again. That's, I think, a much better approach. That's most of chapter 5. Educational psychology. Have a good day.